The visual is not important here. The music is not important here. The voice is not important here. What matters are the words. If you cannot listen to the words, you do not belong here. If you understand this, welcome to the Fate Club. Anxiety in this period does not appear as a system failure, but as a side effect of an inner recalibration that happens deeper than conscious decisions and faster than the language used to explain it. It emerges in bodies and minds without a clear cause, often at moments when external circumstances seem stable, and precisely for that reason it creates tension between what appears on the surface and what is shifting underneath. Old patterns of reaction, built on constant anticipation of threat, performance, and control, are losing their foundation, while new ones are not yet fully anchored, and this transition is registered by the nervous system as unease without an object. Humanity is in a process of ascent that is not a triumphant upward movement, but a quiet shift in perception, where the way consciousness processes reality is changing. In such a process, the old orientation toward linear time, clear causes, and immediate answers begins to dissolve, and a space opens in which information settles deeper, slower, and with less drama. Anxiety appears in this space as a signal that the old way of interpreting the world is no longer sufficient, while the new one has not yet been fully integrated, and the body responds before the mind can understand what is changing. Many of these sensations are not personal in the traditional sense because they do not arise from an individual story, but from a collective change in the conditions of existence. The human nervous system was long calibrated for an environment of constant pressure, comparison, and struggle for position, and when these stimuli begin to dissolve or lose relevance, a void emerges that can feel like danger. Anxiety is therefore not a warning of a specific event, but a response to the loss of old reference points that once provided a sense of certainty, even if they were rooted in fear. In the process of ascent, the relationship to one's own thoughts also changes, as they no longer hold the same authority they once did, and this creates a peculiar state in which the mind generates signals without a clear receiver. Anxiety may then manifest as tightness in the chest, rapid breathing, or a sense that something is wrong, even though there is no concrete evidence. This is the moment when the old mechanism of rapid reaction searches for an object, while the new state of observation is not yet stable, leaving the body suspended in between. This in-between state is not a failure, but a natural phase of adaptation, similar to how an organism adjusts to changes in environment, light, or daily rhythm. Anxiety in this context is not an enemy, but a sign that inner systems are retuning towards subtler perception, where constant evaluation and reaction are no longer necessary. Old alarms still activate automatically, but their messages no longer carry the same weight, and this mismatch creates the sensation of tension. The ascent of humanity does not occur as a single unified movement, but as a series of individual transitions that overlap and amplify one another. Each person moves through this process at a different pace, yet the underlying mechanism remains the same because it concerns biological and mental calibration rather than personal ambition. Anxiety, in this sense, becomes a shared language of the body, responding to a change in the frequency of reality, where constant vigilance is no longer required. Gradually, the relationship to authorities, systems, and rules also shifts, as structures that once offered clear answers and firm boundaries lose their absolute validity. When these frameworks weaken, an inner space emerges that may feel empty and uncertain, yet it also allows for deeper perception without the need for immediate conclusions. Anxiety in this space functions as an echo of the old order, which has not fully dissolved but can no longer maintain the same level of control. In the body, this process shows itself as increased sensitivity to stimuli, changes in sleep, or fluctuations in energy, because the nervous system is learning to operate without a permanent stress mode. Anxiety here is not a signal of danger, but a transitional state in which old reflexes are releasing and new ones have not yet fully taken root. It is a quiet conflict between what was habitual and what is beginning to form. Ascent does not mean escaping reality, but but entering its subtler layers, where meaning is not created through resistance, but through understanding of processes. Anxiety in this context points to consciousness learning to process reality without constant struggle, and this transition is neither smooth nor immediate. It is a period in which old identities dissolve and new ones have not yet taken shape, producing a sense of instability that cannot be resolved by quick answers. Time in this process ceases to be a linear measure of progress and becomes more like a space in which changes settle gradually. Anxiety may arise even in moments of calm, precisely because the body still remembers the old rhythm of constant alertness. This contrast between external quiet and internal tension is a typical sign of transition, where older layers of consciousness have not yet fully released. When this process is observed without the need for immediate labeling, it becomes clear that anxiety is not a permanent state, but a movement that comes and goes along with the retuning of inner systems. It is not a step backward, but a brief hesitation between two modes of existence, where the old is no longer sustainable, and the new is still stabilizing. In this sense, anxiety is a companion phenomenon of ascent, not its contradiction. The ascent of humanity, therefore, does not manifest as continuous certainty, but as a series of subtle shifts that alter the fundamental orientation of perception. Anxiety is one of these signals, indicating that consciousness is moving from a survival mode into a mode of observation, and such a movement requires time. Body and mind are learning to function in an environment where reacting to every impulse is no longer necessary, and this learning process can temporarily feel destabilizing. At the end of this process, there is no answer and no solution, but a quiet change in the relationship to inner states, where anxiety loses its dominant role and becomes just one of many signals of transition. Ascent does not conclude at a point, but continues as a natural consequence of consciousness adapting to new conditions of existence, in which old mechanisms gradually fade without the need for struggle. If you understand this, welcome to the club.